men. And I use the term in a manly way today. So take off your pantyhose, put on your big boy pants. We're going to dive into this KHK. The owner says that the guy he got it from claims it was recently rebuilt. And by recently, we probably mean, I don't know, 10 years ago. Maybe 15 years ago, who knows? But it really doesn't look like it's had a lot of miles put on it. The crusty factor, you know, it's a little dirty, but it's not particularly crusty. So that might be true. Anyway, we're going to take it apart. We're going to figure out what it needs. And we'll go over some of the differences between a KHK, a Sportster, and a regular K model. Before we dig too deeply into this thing, let's take a look at some reference material. We got a few books over here that I'm going to probably be looking at during the course of rebuilding this thing. I don't have, nor have I even seen originals or reproduction of original service manuals. So we're going to be using a few other things to help this along. The first thing I'm going to look at is this, What Fits What. This is a handy book. I don't know if it's still in print. But anyway, it's got some good information about all Harley models. And it's got a little bit of a section on the K models, the flathead sports as they call them. Well, even the big flatheads to use. But anyway, a few pages here and there. Tells you what fits what and what's interchangeable from one year to another. I assume there's going to be some parts in this thing that are going to be hard to get. I don't know. Hopefully it won't need much. But anyway, very good reference source. If you're so inclined, you should pick up a copy. It comes in handy. This is the Rider's Handbook. It's obviously reproduction. It's not original HD. This is really a pretty good book. I mean, look, blow-ups of the clutch. It's got, oops, where did it go? Wiring diagram. Not a lot of wires back in 52 or 55 or 54 or whatever. You know, where the oil plugs are located at. You know, how to break a chain. Just all kinds of stuff in here. Adjusting a carburetor. You know, these days, owner's manuals say things like, don't lick the battery. Back in the olden days, you had to work on this shit, and they told you how. This I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if you could read it, but it's about changing a tire. It says, lay the motorcycle on its right side to rest on the front safety guard. So to change a tire, they intended for you to lean it over on the side. Anyway, years ago, I was at an open house put on by the Harley dealer in the town I lived in. This was back in the shovelhead era. He did a demonstration where his wife, a petite little gal, probably 130 pounds, rolled a full dress shovelhead over on its side so that you could take a tire off, you know, say it was broken down by the side of the road. That was the purpose of his demonstration. She rolled it over on its side on the crash bars and then stood it back up again. So, you know, once again, back in the days where, you know, you had to work on it yourself. Very impressive. But anyway, that's how they intend you to do it. Roll it over on its side, screw jacking it up and all that kind of happy horse shit. Very good book. It's got a lot of good info. I'll be looking at that quite a bit. The other book that I like to look at is this thing here. Alan Girdler is a well-known motorcycle author. He's written many books, several about Harleys. And this book is old. I don't know if it's in print or not anymore. I think it's probably not in print. But he put a section together on the K models. And there's some interesting stuff in here. I couldn't find any production records for 55. But in 56, he's got a source here that says they built 714 KHs. So I would suspect 55 was a similar number. So you're talking about, the engine we have here is one of 5 or 6 or 700 probably. He goes on to say, legend says the KHKs and KKs were assembled by the racing shop. Kind of interesting. I didn't know that. Also goes on to say that the KK and the KHK are legends. There must be thousands of enthusiasts who heard the stories but never actually saw one of these machines. He goes on also to say that I, for one, can vouch for only one genuine KHK in the world, and I can only do that because the present owner, dealer Len Andres, sold it new and bought it back. So here you are. You're going to be seeing a truly one-of-a-kind here when we pull this thing apart and you see what's in the inside. The other thing I thought that he said was interesting is he talks about parts being swapped back and forth, and one thing being in another thing, and all this trading on. And he says, what you really must do here is be sure. If it isn't stamped KHK, it isn't what. So we'll take a look at this crankcase. This is stamped KHK. One of the reasons so few of these things survive is because the KHK had a 4.5-inch stroke. The standard case had a 3.812 stroke. So as it turns out, you could take a KH flywheel and put it in a 900C Sportster, and that was among your first do-it-yourself stroker motors. So anyway, this book, handy reference. Okay, this is one of my other sources. This is one of those reproduction parts books. I got it a long time ago when I was putting my 52K together. And back then I lived in Illinois, and I was calling the old-timey Harley dealers, not these fucking boutiques they got these days, but Gutteridge down in Danville, Weaver's in Decatur. This over here where it says Dale's, this is actually Dale Waxler's old shop number back when he was in Mount Vernon, Illinois. I did shake down a couple of hard-to-find parts at this guy, Willie's R&R. He was up in Wisconsin. And this guy over here, Gary, he had a place called Whips. I think it was Whips Custom Sportsters that I ended up rounding up some old parts at. But anyway, I couldn't do this project without this source. Just because it gives you the original numbers, and that's a place to start looking when you need something. So anyway, Repo Parts Book, good to have. FYI, this is the bike I built so many moons ago. Yeah, I know there's nothing stock about the chassis, but you have a basket full of parts. You build what you could afford. I thought it was a pretty sharp looking bike. It's a 52. It ran fucking great. It was truly one kicker. No damn power, but it ran good. My other source for information is this book. The Legend Begins, a Harley book. They don't talk a lot about the 55KH. As a matter of fact, the only thing they really give you about it is this picture. There's no description, no details, just a picture in the book. And then if you flip the page, apparently if you were a dealer and you were going to buy one of these, let's see if I could make that so you can read it. Anyway, if you were a dealer and you were going to order a bike, this is the order form you would use. And here we go, KHK, right here, optional extras, KHK Special Speed Kit, $51. It looks like the basic bike was $693. And interesting here, look at here. Your 55 FLH, $811. Servicar, hard to believe, $918. You think the big twin would be more than the Servicar. But anyway, this book has the original dealer order forms on it. You know, the list of bikes lists all of your options, sidecars, windshields, chrome this, chrome that, chrome rims. Here's cervicar only options, police options, overhead valve model options, just all different kinds of things. Your color options. Anyway, this is the official Harley Legend Begins book. Okay, I did a little ciphering just kind of as a point of reference. Your standard Sportster 900cc's got a 3-inch bore. So, of course, the displacement is pi times the radius squared times the stroke times the number of cylinders. So you do the math on it, and pi, radius squared, stroke, number of cylinders comes out to 53.89, 54 cubic inches commonly called. You go to the standard K model, the bore is 2 3/4. So pi times the radius squared, which is half the bore, times the stroke, 3.182 times 2 gets you 45 cubic inches, 750 cc's. You go to the KHK, and here's where it gets interesting. Same bore, 2 3/4. So pi times the radius squared times the stroke. The stroke is 4.56 times 2 cylinders, 54 cubic inches. The same as the 900cc Sportster, pretty much. Okay, so here's where it gets kind of interesting. You pull a set of KHK flywheels out of KHK and you put them in an XL. Pi times the radius squared, and of course you got a 3-inch bore, so it's 2.25 times 4.5-inch stroke times 2 cylinders, 64 cubic inches, which is about 1,048 cc's. So you could take your 57 or 58 early Sportster, put some KHK model flywheels in there, and boom, you got 64 cubic inches, 10 inches bigger than your stock Sportster. And Jesus, how many cc's? It's like 150 cc's bigger. So a lot of these KHKs were taken apart, and the flywheels were stolen out of them. Which is one of the other reasons that they're very, very hard to find intact these days. So when I get this motor apart, we're going to measure these wheels and make sure that they really are KHK flywheels. So let's tear this bitch apart. Okay, so here's the numbers. They look legit to me. You know, back in those days, these were probably hand stamped. You know, no automated machines, laser cutting them in there like on a modern engine. So these look legit to me. There's no evidence that the boss has been filed on, welded on, ground on, any numbers stamped over other numbers. They look good to me. So I got to believe for right now this is a real 1955 KHK. All right, let's pop these heads off. This is some cheesy homemade piece of crap. This is gonna go in the garbage, I'm sure. All right, first look. Copper coat, gasket sealer. No obvious cracks. Head looks good. Boy, some weird marks on the cylinder. These almost look like hammer marks up in here. Boy, this thing, what, standard size piston. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Ooh, there we go. Say not the time to break any fins. Okay, here's where it starts to get interesting. Cracks, big pits. I'm guessing right now that something let loose in here one time and hammered the shit out of this head, and it's cracked across here. Not a good thing. May be repairable. Well, I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's pull the distributor out. Let's take a look at what's under there. Yeah, one set of points, a lot of meat left on them. Distributor base was not tight. Interesting. Teeth on the distributor look more or less okay. One thing I noticed is this was not seated all the way in. It's not seated all the way against the flange on here. And that is because the end of the shaft sticks out too far. Not sure what's going on with that, but that will be addressed before it goes back together again. This is also not the right mounting hardware. Somebody just bent a washer over. There should be like a U-shaped clamp that fits around this and pinches it down. So we'll either make one or try to find one. Let's see if I could show you a little side valve spring removal. I don't know whether a conventional valve spring remover would work on these. They might, I don't know. But I have this gadget. Had a little spacer I had to make. And what you do is you put that in there. Turn the handle. Sometimes the valve sticks up a little bit. Coming off the side here, I got to get it centered up a little better. We've compressed the spring, and I should be able to pop the keepers out. There goes one, and there goes the other one. Let the tension off. Spring collar, homemade spacer tool. The other keeper I almost lost. And the valve out the head. I decided I wanted to see what's in the primary. Rotate the engine off the sprocket nut, see how it felt. And take the trans and the clutch out before I pull the cylinders. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Should be a piece of cake. Let's talk to it a little bit and see what happens. Well, let's get this out. And give me a hole, something to hang on to. If you got a pry on them, use something wide. And as usual, oil. Fresh oil, clean oil, wow. I'm impressed. Alright, we got a little bit of weirdness going on. First of all, I had to tap the cover off. This engine has had alignment pins put in on the case side, so they must be correspondingly drilled on the cover. I've never seen that before. I don't think it's normal. I think it's somebody added on. Number two, there's no derby cover on the clutch, so he's running the wet to dry clutch plates. Number three, this is a late model primary chain. Number four, the sprocket shaft is recessed within the nut by 4 or 5 threads. So only half of the threads on the nut are engaging. I wonder what's up with that. That's kind of weird. Let's see if it turns over. Turns over very nicely. That's a good sign. That came up good. Good sign. And the last one. All right, here's a little more weirdness going on. The face of the clutch hub nut is proud of the clutch gear by 1/8 of an inch. These are usually flush with one another. Plus, there's no lock tabs on the big nut over here. Number two little bit of weirdness is, or maybe number three, one of the reasons the nut was so proud of the shaft is there's a big thick washer under there. I usually don't see that. Doesn't need to be there. Let's get this apart and take the clutch off. Let's see if it'll come off without hurting me. Good deal. That's nice. Let's see if this comes off. Nice. Something weird is going on here. I have to check the parts book. This doesn't look like it's supposed to look. Piece of cake. Kickstart shaft gears had it going over. That looks pretty good. See, now this is an extra homemade spacer. I'm going to have to do a little digging into why that would need to be there. That could be why the clutch hub wasn't being driven on as far as I thought it should have been driven on. This doesn't look long enough. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to do a careful setup on the primary here to make sure everything is lined up. Let's get this off. Well, that was barely on there. Huh. With the copper washer underneath there, that is going to cause problems. Boy, some weird grinding over here. Jesus. Let me get you a close-up of this kickstart shaft nut. Somebody's grounded, heated it up, turned it all blue. What the fuck? Have to figure out what's going on with that. Something's not kosher. See, here's another weird thing. This is all bent. Something was not right with this kickstart shaft. We'll figure it out. Okay, let's get the sprocket nut off. This is missing the rubber seal for the clutch release rods. Let's get the sprocket off. Now let's pop the transfer. Once again, I'm just lazy. If the dowel pins aren't too tight, it should pop right out. And it does. Countershaft first gear is all eaten up. Many teeth are trashed. Main shaft in the area where the bearings ride doesn't look too bad. The quick and dirty assessment on the other gears is they look okay. And this thing still has assembly grease on it. If this engine was run, it couldn't have been run much. Took a quick look inside the trans case, and I'll show you later when I get back around to the other side. This boss is all cracked up on the other side. It's going to need some work. There's some other cracks where the crankshaft comes through. We're going to take a look at those too. There's some things about this engine are not too bad, and some things are just fucking horrible. So we'll get it all apart, see what we think. Yep, don't see anything too horrible there. That is a K-model camshaft. So is that. Uh-oh. got some weird repair job going on here. No mark on the cam. This cam has been welded. Huh, interesting. And we got another one over here. This is a K model cam. Looks like a new one. That should be fixable. Don't see anything horrible in there yet. Well, here's something interesting. Both drain plug holes have been welded shut, which is actually not a bad idea. And I'm looking at the part number on the pump. This is the 1000 cc version oil pump. It's got a part number ending in 72. So that's a good thing. We'll take the pump apart and check it out later. Okay, for now, I think that's it. We'll pull the barrels off, split the cases tomorrow. There's a few nasty surprises lurking in here. When I get it cleaned up a little bit, we'll take a look at them, and you could see I haven't seen anything that is not repairable yet. But we got some more digging to do. There's some concerns, that's for sure. But for right now, I am out of here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And I think I'll do a video on what we've got so far, and splitting the cases and looking at the damage will be another video. Take it easy. Thanks. Bye.